Corporate America spends billions of dollars on management consultants every year. Much of the money goes towards paying for impractical data and recommendations that are not followed. But before we can understand why companies are spending so much money on useless consulting, we need to consider why consultants are hired in the first place. Companies hire consultants for their knowledge and expertise. Often, companies may not have in-house knowledge of a specific area, and so they hire consultants who are supposed to have the required skills and experience. For instance, a company seeking to expand to a new market may require the services of a consultant who has experience in that market. Hiring full-time employees with these skills can be expensive, particularly if the organization only requires those skills for a limited period. By engaging consultants, companies can gain access to the required knowledge and expertise without making a long-term commitment. Another reason companies hire consultants is to gain a fresh perspective and objectivity. After working for an organization for a long time, it becomes difficult to view things objectively. Consultants are hired to bring new ideas and fresh eyes to the table. Furthermore, consultants are supposed to achieve their objectives quickly and efficiently. This can be helpful for companies that are under time constraints or have limited resources. In certain cases, consultants are hired to provide advice on how to manage risk, which is essential for companies in highly regulated industries. They help organizations navigate legal and ethical boundaries and mitigate risks. So, in theory, consultants are supposed to help companies do what they are unable to do themselves. But as we know, there is often a wide gap between theory and practice. In reality, consultants are not really doing what they're supposed to do. This is because many management consultants lack experience. Consultants are usually hired straight out of college. The big three firms, which are McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group, and Bain, hire almost exclusively out of universities through graduate programs. These young graduates become analysts at these firms and do a bulk of the grunt work on consulting projects under the supervision of a managing director or partner. Unfortunately, a lot of these students get hired and start working there. They're disabused of that, and they're often working for things that have absolutely nothing to do with these lofty goals. The managing directors and partners are usually promoted from within, as a big three management consulting firms have an up-or-out staffing policy. This means that if after 3 years, junior analysts are not promoted, they are asked to leave. The problem that this creates is that the people doing the bulk of the consulting not only don't have any senior management experience, they often don't have any experience working in a big company at all. Despite this obvious flaw, management consulting firms continue this practice because it has become ingrained in the corporate culture. A partner who has worked their way up from being an analyst might not want to hire someone for their team with too much real-world experience because they might successfully challenge their expertise. The graduates are also much cheaper to hire. Management consulting is based on billable hours, so analysts are expected to put in long weeks. Average salaries at McKinsey for first-year analysts range from $90,000 to $110,000, which is a lot, but it's not that competitive when the expectation is 80-hour weeks with lots of stress and very little job security. It's also lower than what those same graduates could earn if they went into investment banking, private equity, or fintech. The reason they take these consulting jobs over more lucrative alternatives is because of the exit opportunities. Since their job is nothing but making companies run better, workers with management consulting experience become highly demanded for management roles in regular companies once they have a few years of experience. This is the reverse of how it should be, which is consultants getting experience doing the things they are going to give advice on before they give the advice. To make matters worse, the fact that management consultants don't have any experience in the field they are consulting on can lead to some serious problems. For example, they might not fully understand the context of the company they are working for or the industry they are in. They might also miss important nuances or details that can make a big difference in the success of their project. And finally, they might not be able to gain the trust of the employees they are working with, who might see them as outsiders who don't understand their company or industry. But this does not stop consulting firms from taking on assignments even if they are not well equipped to deliver results in that field. Consultants do not accept direct liability for any of their recommendations going wrong, and the worst that can happen to them is reputational damage. Therefore, there is little incentive for profit-share motivated partners to give up lucrative contracts just because they won't be able to give good advice. The culture has become to oversell their infallible business acumen and then work out what they are doing after they have landed the job. The other aspect is cost. Consulting costs much more than anybody ever expects. The British government spent nearly £1 billion on Brexit strategy consulting with these big management consulting firms. The French government has also been embroiled in scandals involving overly generous contracts to consulting firms, and big government projects in the US, like healthcare.gov, involved more than 55 consulting contractors and subcontractors. Relying so much on consultants also prevents businesses and governments from developing in-house capabilities. If consultants are hired to solve any problem a business or government runs into, then they don't need to hire teams of people internally to deal with those problems. Consultants brought in to improve business operations also have a fondness for reducing headcount wherever possible. Despite the numerous problems with management consulting firms, there are 3 big reasons why governments and business leaders keep hiring them. One reason is that hiring consultants can be really good for the careers of the people that get to do the hiring. The number one career move for elected officials after they leave office is into consulting. Senior consultants can earn a lot of money, with some senior partners earning more than $1 million a year. The second reason is that a lot of business and political leaders don't know what they are doing, and consultants can tell them how to do their jobs. And hiring consultants is the single most effective ass covering tool that a senior manager can employ. There are many downsides to relying too heavily on management consulting firms. We have mentioned that it can prevent a company or government agency from developing its own internal capabilities. If consultants are always brought in to solve every problem, then there's no need to build up teams of experts within the organization. This can create a culture of dependency on outside expertise, which can be costly in the long run. Also, management consulting firms may not always have the best interests of their clients in mind. Consultants may be incentivized to push certain solutions or recommendations based on what's most profitable for the firm, rather than what's best for the client. This can lead to conflicts of interest and biased advice. Despite these drawbacks, many businesses and governments continue to rely on management consulting firms for their expertise and advice. For many, the benefits of working with these firms outweigh the risks. Whether this is a wise decision in the long run remains to be seen. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.